My name is Jessica Monroe. I'm 33. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work in PR, or at least I did, before everything fell apart. I used to be the girl with the 5-year plan, neat, predictable, safe. Career by 25, engaged by 30, married by 33, and I almost pulled it off. I had the dress, the venue, the flowers, the people, all staring at me with sympathy I hadn't earned yet. Because at 3:14 p.m. on what was supposed to be the best day of my life, I stood in front of 212 people in a cathedral filled with white orchids and candlelight, and waited for a man who never showed up. His name was Daniel West. He was charming, successful, and just broken enough to feel romantic. The kind of man who could say the right thing without even blinking, and make you forget what you were mad about in the first place. We met at a charity event for animal shelters. He laughed at my name tag, said I looked like someone who knew how to ruin a man's life, in a good way. That line aged badly. At first, Daniel was everything. He sent flowers to my office, made friends with my dad, baked banana bread for my co-workers. Everyone said I was lucky, even my mum. And she never says that. I was in too deep before I realized something didn't quite fit, but I didn't listen to my gut, because I was already in the dress, and I'd already sent the invitations. So I walked down the aisle, alone, to a string quartet, smiling, until I wasn't. I remember someone whispered, "Is this part of the ceremony?" I remember my aunt clutching her pearls like we were at a funeral. I remember a groomsman, sweating through his tux, leaning toward me and muttering, "Jess, he's not coming," just like that. No warning, no text, no note. The music stopped, but the cameras kept recording. People started leaving. My father refused to look at me. My mother kept smiling, like maybe if she smiled hard enough, it wouldn't be real. I stood there, in white satin, surrounded by half-eaten macarons and floral arches and people pretending not to stare. The next morning, I found a voicemail from Daniel, left during the ceremony. "Jess, I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. You deserve more. I'll explain someday. Please don't hate me." That was it. No "I love you," no "I'm safe." Just silence. I didn't eat for 3 days. I didn't leave my apartment for 5. The wedding photos never got posted, but the clip of me standing there alone went viral. Runaway groom, Charlotte PR exec ghosted at the altar. The comments were brutal. She must have known something was off. Red flags were waving and she wore white anyway. Bet she was a nightmare bridezilla. I stopped reading after the one that said, "Honestly, he did her a favor." But here's the thing. That day didn't ruin my life. It revealed it. It peeled back the surface, the curated, filtered, overperforming version of my life, and showed me something uglier, something darker, something I never would have looked for unless he ran. Because when someone disappears mid-vow, they're not just running from you. They're running from something they don't want you to find. And I was about to find all of it. They say heartbreak is private. But shame is always a performance. And mine played out in 1080p, on wedding blogs, gossip threads, and Instagram reels. People I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me saying things like, "OMG, are you okay? I just saw the video. Can't believe he did that." They didn't want to know if I was okay. They wanted inside access, the raw cut. I moved back into my apartment 3 days after the non-wedding. The front door still had the keychain he gave me. J&D forever. I threw it in the trash, missed. Left it there on the floor for a week. My job gave me personal time, which really meant they didn't want the drama contaminating the office. PR is all about optics, and I had become a walking reminder that even the best packaging can hide rotten things. Even my friends, they didn't know what to say. Some tried. "At least he didn't waste years of your life. Hey, maybe you dodged a bullet. You'll laugh about this someday." I didn't laugh. One night around 2 a.m. I was scrolling through old texts between me and Daniel, trying to find the exact moment when it all started to crack. I went back months, years. There was one message that stuck out. From 5 weeks before the wedding, just 4 words sent at 3:17 a.m. "We're doing the right thing." I'd replied with a heart. No idea why he sent it. No idea what he meant. But now, it felt like something else entirely. I started noticing things I had ignored, like the honeymoon fund he insisted we manage offline with cash deposits, or how he refused a prenup even though he came from money. He made jokes about it. If I can't trust my future wife, who can I trust? The joke was on me. I called his parents. No one answered. Left a voicemail. 2 days later, I got a text from his mother. "Please respect our privacy during this time. Daniel is going through a lot emotionally. This isn't your fault, but it's not our responsibility either." That was the last I heard from them. Then, something strange happened. An envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. Glossy, a little bent at the corners. It was a picture of Daniel, taken from across the street. He was walking into a hotel, holding hands with someone who wasn't me. A woman, brunette, wearing a red coat and high heels. I flipped the photo over. On the back, in neat handwriting, "You're not the first." No name, no explanation. Just that. I stared at that photo for hours. This wasn't a random affair. Someone sent this on purpose. Someone wanted me to see. Not to hurt me, but maybe to warn me. I tried to convince myself it didn't mean anything. That maybe it was an old photo. That maybe it was a mistake. That maybe I really was overreacting. But my gut, the one I ignored for months, started screaming. And this time I listened. I started digging, pulled out the old laptop Daniel had used at my place, the one he said was too old to bother wiping. He always made jokes about how bad he was with tech. Turns out he was right, because when I logged in, I found a folder buried deep in the Documents tab. It was titled, "Do Not Open 2019. And that's exactly what I did. They say heartbreak is private, but shame is always a performance, and mine played out in 1080p on wedding blogs, gossip threads, and Instagram reels. People I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me saying things like, "OMG, are you okay? I just saw the video. Can't believe he did that." They didn't want to know if I was okay. They wanted inside access, the raw cut. I moved back into my apartment 3 days after the non-wedding. The front door still had the keychain he gave me. J&D forever. I threw it in the trash, missed, left it there on the floor for a week. My job gave me personal time, which really meant they didn't want the drama contaminating the office. PR is all about optics, and I had become a walking reminder that even the best packaging can hide rotten things. Even my friends, they didn't know what to say. Some tried. "At least he didn't waste years of your life." "Hey, maybe you dodged a bullet." "You'll laugh about this someday." I didn't laugh. One night, around 2 a.m., I was scrolling through old texts between me and Daniel, trying to find the exact moment when it all started to crack. I went back months, years. There was one message that stuck out, from 5 weeks before the wedding, just 4 words, sent at 3:17 a.m. "We're doing the right thing." I'd replied with a heart. No idea why he sent it. No idea what he meant. But now, it felt like something else entirely. I started noticing things I had ignored, like the honeymoon fund he insisted we manage offline with cash deposits, or how he refused a prenup even though he came from money. He made jokes about it. If I can't trust my future wife, who can I trust? The joke was on me. I called his parents. No one answered. Left a voicemail. 2 days later, I got a text from his mother. "Please respect our privacy during this time. Daniel is going through a lot emotionally. This isn't your fault, but it's not our responsibility either." That was the last I heard from them. Then, something strange happened. An envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. Glossy. A little bent at the corners. It was a picture of Daniel, taken from across the street. He was walking into a hotel, holding hands with someone who wasn't me. A woman. Brunette. Wearing a red coat and high heels. I flipped the photo over. On the back, in neat handwriting, "You're not the first." No name, no explanation, just that. I stared at that photo for hours. This wasn't a random affair. Someone sent this on purpose. Someone wanted me to see. Not to hurt me, but maybe to warn me. I tried to convince myself it didn't mean anything. That maybe it was an old photo. That maybe it was a mistake. That maybe I really was overreacting. But my gut, the one I ignored for months, started screaming. And this time I listened. I started digging. Pulled out the old laptop Daniel had used at my place. The one he said was too old to bother wiping. He always made jokes about how bad he was with tech. Turns out he was right, because when I logged in, I found a folder buried deep in the Documents tab. It was titled, "Do Not Open, 2019. And that's exactly what I did. They say heartbreak is private, but shame? Shame is always a performance, and mine played out in 1080p, on wedding blogs, gossip threads, and Instagram reels. People I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me saying things like, "OMG, are you okay? I just saw the video. Can't believe he did that." They didn't want to know if I was okay. They wanted inside access, the raw cut. I moved back into my apartment 3 days after the non-wedding. The front door still had the keychain he gave me. J&D forever. I threw it in the trash. Missed. Left it there on the floor for a week. My job gave me personal time, which really meant they didn't want the drama contaminating the office. PR is all about optics, and I had become a walking reminder that even the best packaging can hide rotten things. Even my friends, they didn't know what to say. Some tried. At least he didn't waste years of your life. Hey, maybe you dodged a bullet. You'll laugh about this someday. I didn't laugh. One night around 2 a.m., I was scrolling through old texts between me and Daniel, trying to find the exact moment when it all started to crack. I went back months, years. There was one message that stuck out, from 5 weeks before the wedding. Just 4 words, sent at 3:17 a.m. "We're doing the right thing." I'd replied with a heart. No idea why he sent it. No idea what he meant. But now, it felt like something else entirely. I started noticing things I had ignored, like the honeymoon fund he insisted we manage offline with cash deposits, or how he refused a prenup even though he came from money. He made jokes about it. If I can't trust my future wife, who can I trust? The joke was on me. I called his parents. No one answered. Left a voicemail. 2 days later, I got a text from his mother. "Please respect our privacy during this time. Daniel is going through a lot emotionally. This isn't your fault, but it's not our responsibility either." That was the last I heard from them. Then something strange happened. An envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. Glossy. A little bent at the corners. It was a picture of Daniel, taken from across the street. He was walking into a hotel, holding hands with someone who wasn't me. A woman. Brunette. Wearing a red coat and high heels. I flipped the photo over. On the back, in neat handwriting, "You're not the first." No name, no explanation, just that. I stared at that photo for hours. This wasn't a random affair. Someone sent this on purpose. Someone wanted me to see. Not to hurt me, but maybe to warn me. I tried to convince myself it didn't mean anything. That maybe it was an old photo. That maybe it was a mistake. That maybe I really was overreacting. But my gut, the one I ignored for months, started screaming. And this time I listened. I started digging. Pulled out the old laptop Daniel had used at my place. The one he said was too old to bother wiping. He always made jokes about how bad he was with tech. Turns out he was right, because when I logged in, I found a folder buried deep in the Documents tab. It was titled, Do Not Open, 2019. And that's exactly what I did. I clicked the folder. Inside were several Word documents, a few PDFs, all renamed things like insurance, resume final, MSc. But I knew Daniel. He wasn't subtle, but he was careful. I opened one called Tax History. It wasn't about taxes. It was a transcript, a conversation, dated 2 years before we met. You really think she'll go through with it? Of course. They always do. What if she catches on? She won't. They never do. Until it's too late. No names, no context. But the way he spoke, smooth, detached, rehearsed. It felt actually like him. I kept digging. The metadata on the file showed it had been modified in June, 2 weeks after our engagement. Then I found a folder inside the folder, hidden inside a zip file. It was called Vault. Password protected. I tried our anniversary date, his birthday. Nothing. Then I typed, Jessica, and it opened. Inside were photos, dozens. Some I recognized, selfies we took, pictures from vacation. But there were others, women I'd never seen, smiling beside him, laughing on boats, dancing at what looked like wedding receptions. I clicked on one photo, a woman in a green dress. She had tears in her eyes, happy tears, holding Daniel's hand as he knelt in front of her with a ring. The date stamp? 14 months before he proposed to me. I should have stopped, but I couldn't, because now it wasn't about heartbreak. It was about truth, about knowing how deep the lie went, about reclaiming the narrative before it swallowed me. I needed answers, so I tracked the envelope, the one with the photo. The postmark was from Asheville. I don't know what I expected. A confession, a clue, a witness? What I got was a phone number, written in pen at the bottom corner of the envelope. So faint I almost missed it. I called it. The voice that answered was female, calm, but as soon as I said Daniel's name, she hung up. I called again, left a voicemail. Nothing. Then the next day, she called back. I'm not doing this for drama, she said, but you deserve to know. Her name was Claire. She was 36, a nurse, and she had been engaged to Daniel 4 years ago. We met in a diner off the highway. She wore sunglasses and didn't take them off until we were seated. He did it to me too, she said. We planned the wedding, he met my family, borrowed money for a down payment on a house. Then he disappeared on the day of our engagement party. She paused, stirred her iced tea with a straw like it was the only thing keeping her anchored. I never told anyone. I was too ashamed, until I saw your story. She pulled out a flash drive. He gave me a burner phone while we were dating, said he didn't want me getting mixed up in his work stuff. When he left, I cracked it open, found recordings, emails, pictures. I asked her why she kept them, because he made me feel like I imagined it all, and I needed proof that I didn't. We plugged the drive into my laptop right there. One folder stood out. It was titled Scripts. It contained dozens of documents, with names of women, timelines, stories. It was like he had templates for relationships, scripts for emotional intimacy, lines to say, dates to plan, triggers to push. It was all methodical. Act interested in her passion project by week 3. Plan engagement between month 10 to 12, once she's emotionally dependent. Start introducing financial dependency by month 15. I wanted to throw up. This wasn't just abandonment. This was calculated emotional fraud. Daniel didn't fall out of love. He never fell in love to begin with. Claire looked at me and said, he's not just a runaway groom. He's a collector of women, of stories, of power. I asked if she ever reported him. She shook her head. I was too broken, too embarrassed. I thought I was the only one. But now she wasn't. Now neither of us were, and I knew what I had to do. After meeting Claire, I couldn't sleep. Not just because of what I'd learned, but because I couldn't stop thinking, how many more were there? How many weddings almost happened? How many bank accounts were emptied? How many women were walking around thinking they were the ones who failed? I sat in my apartment surrounded by sticky notes, timelines, receipts, printed screenshots. My dining room looked like a detective's board in a movie, only messier, red string, highlighters, open bottles of wine, half-eaten toast. The deeper I went, the darker it got. There were 6 women I could verify, 2 engagements, 1 live-in girlfriend who paid off his credit cards, 1 woman who co-signed a lease she still couldn't get out of, and none of them had ever gone to the police. Why? Because Daniel didn't hit. He didn't scream. He didn't steal. Not in a way that looked illegal. He was too smart for that. He made you give it to him willingly. Love, time, access, resources. He didn't leave bruises. He left self-doubt. One night around 1:30 a.m., I opened a savings spreadsheet from when Daniel and I were planning our honeymoon. He'd insisted we handle it in cash, said it was more secure. But I noticed something odd. One transfer, logged 3 days before the wedding for $24,800, labeled Final Arrangement, CH. I didn't recognize the initials. I checked our bank app. That transfer wasn't there anymore, but I had screenshots, and screenshots don't lie. I started searching those initials, CH, looked through everything. Social media, email records, even Venmo histories. Then I remembered something Claire told me, that Daniel once introduced himself as Christopher Hale to one of her friends. Could it be that simple? I ran the name Christopher Hale through an old contacts dump from Daniel's synced devices, and there it was, a Google account registered under Christopher Hale 1985, linked to an Airbnb profile and a Stripe payment account. That name was tied to a business entity, not a fake one, a registered LLC in South Carolina, Riverview Strategies, LLC. I clicked through to the state's corporate registration database. Daniel, or Christopher, had used his mother's maiden name and registered the LLC 5 years ago. Purpose: consulting. What kind of consulting? The site was bare bones, just a contact form. No staff, no description. But when I Googled the associated phone number, it linked back to 3 different wedding vendors, in 3 different states. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just leaving women. He was recycling weddings, booking vendors, taking deposits, backing out, pocketing cancellation fees, using brides as financial bait. I felt something crack in me. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was a pattern, a loop, and someone had to stop it. I called Claire and told her everything. We agreed to meet again, this time with someone she trusted, her cousin, who worked in law enforcement. He couldn't do much officially, not yet, but he gave me something more valuable than a case number. He gave me a name, Daniel's real name, the one he was born with, the one he'd been hiding under all his aliases. It wasn't Daniel West. It wasn't Christopher Hale. It was Jacob Eli Ward. I stared at the name on the screen, numb. Then I did the thing I'd been too afraid to do. I called his mother. She answered on the first ring. His mother. The woman who sent me that cold, clipped text after the wedding. The woman who knew, who had to have known, and said nothing. "Mrs. West?" I said carefully. Pause. Then, "This number is for emergencies only." I told her it was one. "Is Jacob with you?" I asked. She didn't correct the name, didn't ask how I knew, just sighed, long and heavy. "What do you want, Jessica?" I wanted a lot of things. I wanted the truth. I wanted the years back. I wanted to unwear that dress and uninvite those guests and undo the shame. But what I said was, "Why did he run?" There was silence. Then finally, because if he went through with it, he'd lose everything. She told me the truth in pieces, that Daniel, her Jacob, had always been clever, a chameleon. He changed personalities like outfits, depending on who he needed to be. She said when he was 25, he almost married a woman from a powerful family, until his father found out she had a prenup, and that Jacob stood to inherit nothing if he married her. That was the first time he ran. He never stopped. But here's the part that made my blood go cold. She wasn't just some helpless mother who didn't know better. She was complicit. He needed time to build something of his own, she said. All I did was protect the legacy. That transfer I found, $24,1800. It wasn't to a vendor. It was from her to him, a payoff, to make him walk away, to ensure the Monroe family name wouldn't be tied to someone like you. That's what she said. It's nothing personal, just business. I hung up before I did something I'd regret. Then I sat in the dark for a long time. Not crying, not shaking, just still. For once, the shame wasn't mine. It never had been. The next morning, I opened my laptop and renamed the folder on my desktop. Not Vault, not Daniel, just one word, proof. I printed it all, screenshots, receipts, photos, timelines, the voice recordings, the wedding plans, the aliases, the LLC. I bound it in a white folder, the same color as my wedding dress, and I mailed it, anonymously, to 3 places: the State Fraud Division, a podcast called The Betrayal Files, and a woman I hadn't met yet, but who had followed me on Instagram 2 days earlier. Her bio read, "Engaged to the man of my dreams, can't wait for October." His name? Daniel West. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. The podcast aired 3 weeks later. A 2-part deep dive. They didn't name me, but they named him. His aliases, his cons, his patterns. One by one, the women came forward. Voicemails, photos, testimonies, screenshots. The episode went viral. He didn't run this time, because there was nowhere left to go. A week later, I got a message from a burner account. No profile pic, just text. "You think you're better than me? You're not. You just got louder." I stared at it for a long time, then replied, "No, I just got even." And then I blocked the number. You wanted a love story, so did I. But this is better, because it's real, because I chose myself, not out of bitterness, but because no one else would have done it for me. I still keep the dress, not to mourn the wedding, but to remember the fire. You left me at the altar. I left you in the ashes. They say revenge is best served cold, but I disagree. Because cold is how I felt at that altar. Cold is how his mother sounded on the phone. Cold is how he left me, with nothing but silence and a floral arrangement bill I still haven't paid off. No, I want heat. I want smoke. I want something he can't walk away from. It's been 6 weeks since the podcast aired. 6 weeks since his aliases got exposed. Since victims started sending me thank you messages and horror stories in the same breath. Since he vanished, again. But this time, I know better. This time, I'm not chasing him. I'm baiting him. I made a list, a real one. Black ink, no bullet points, just names and facts and connections. At the top, Jacob Eli Ward, a.k.a. Daniel West, a.k.a. Christopher Hale, a.k.a. the man who profits from pain. Below that, 3 banks, 2 fake LLCs, 1 offshore fund, courtesy of Claire's cousin. At the very bottom, his mother's trust. The nest egg she thought no one knew about. Spoiler, I do. This time I don't just want the truth. I want impact. I created a new identity, a new LinkedIn, new Instagram, new email. A woman he hasn't met, but would be drawn to. Her name? Emerson Blake, environmental consultant, recently divorced, relocating to Charleston, loves cooking, golden retrievers, and emotionally unavailable men. Emerson is me, minus the guilt. And just like that, he bit. A message. Innocent. Smooth. Too smooth. Hi, Emerson. Noticed we have mutuals in the consulting space. Mind if I connect? Not Daniel. Not Jacob. This time he went by Eli Hansen. New face. Same playbook. I waited 2 days, then responded. Hey, Elika. Sure, I'd love to connect. I just moved here, still trying to find my people. We went back and forth, short texts, casual compliments. Within a week, he was asking if I'd like to grab a drink. I know this little rooftop place. Great view, better wine. Of course he does. My hands were shaking when I typed, sounds perfect. Friday? He sent a thumbs up. Like he hadn't ruined 7 lives and counting. Like he wasn't about to meet one of them for real. I didn't sleep the night before our date, not because I was nervous, because I was rehearsing. The smile, the posture, the exact way Emerson Blake would tuck her hair behind her ear when she laughed. The outfit was simple. Soft blue blouse, gold hoops, just enough perfume to say, I'm here, without screaming. I needed to be the kind of woman he couldn't resist, because I wanted him to drop his guard, because I needed to see if the man who left me at the altar even remembered the woman he abandoned. He didn't. When he walked into that rooftop bar, smooth as ever in a navy jacket and soft grin, he looked right at me and saw a stranger. Emerson, he asked, holding out his hand. I shook it. Nice to finally meet you. He ordered a Cabernet. I asked for seltzer. I wanted a clear head. He talked. I let him. Same moves, same cadence, same emotional manipulation dressed up as vulnerability. I've been hurt too, you know. That's why I take things slow now. Trust isn't easy for me. I nodded like I understood, like I believed him. Inside, I wanted to scream. But Emerson? She just smiled and asked about his last relationship. Ended badly, he said. She wasn't who I thought she was. The irony almost made me choke. We stayed for an hour. I let him walk me to my car. He offered a second date, dinner somewhere nicer. I told him I'd think about it. Then I drove 3 blocks away, parked, and texted Claire. He took the bait. We're in. We had a system now. Claire tracked his movements through Venmo and social media. Her cousin flagged suspicious activity on flagged accounts. Meanwhile, I started feeding our story to a freelance journalist I trusted, a woman named Simone who had done exposés on white-collar dating fraud before. We weren't just building a case, we were building a profile. The next step? Public humiliation. But we needed more than stories. We needed money trails, voice recordings, and we needed confirmation of intent. So I gave him one last test. I met him again. Same charm, same wine. And this time, I mentioned an inheritance, a small one, a few $100,000, enough to change a life or destroy it. I watched his pupils dilate. Wow, that's a big deal, he said, sipping his wine. Good thing you don't have to share it with anyone, huh? 3 days later, I got an email from Riverview Strategies, LLC. Subject, Professional Opportunity Inquiry. Inside, a pitch deck, a contract, and a request for a good faith deposit of $18,000, signed by Christopher Hale. He didn't even try to cover his tracks. He just assumed I was like the rest. Lonely, flattered, foggy. I forwarded the documents to Simone. She looped in her legal team. Claire cross-checked the contract with the one she got 4 years ago. Identical wording, identical fake signatures, only the names changed. We had what we needed. Proof of pattern, proof of fraud, proof of intent. But it still wasn't enough for me, because exposing him meant more than a headline. It meant a reckoning. I thought I had him cornered. Proof, pattern, motive. But part of me still needed to understand. Because no one wakes up one day and decides to destroy people for sport. There's always a beginning. And sometimes, the only way to end a lie is to find out where it was born. I went back through the documents Claire had given me, back through the voice recordings. I listened to one I'd ignored before, a call between Jacob and an unknown woman. The audio was scratchy, but the voice on the other end was unmistakable. His mother. "You said this was the last one," she hissed. "If you screw it up like the girl in Richmond." "She got clingy," Jacob cut in. "I handled it. Like you handled your father's money. You were supposed to double it, not disappear." Then the call cut. Claire hadn't heard that tape. Neither had Simone. When I played it for them, they both sat in silence. "This isn't just emotional manipulation," Simone said slowly. "This is organized exploitation." "From the mother," Claire added. "She's pulling strings." I did another search, this time not for Jacob, but for Helen Ward. His mother. It didn't take long. She used to run a boutique real estate business, mostly flipping properties for clients who mysteriously dropped out before closing. The address listed on her LLC, same building where Daniel and I had toured a venue. Same building where I'd lost my deposit. She wasn't just enabling him, she was co-running the con. It all started making sense. Every broken engagement, every unexplained money trail, every bad breakup where he walked away with cash and the woman walked away questioning her worth. It wasn't just Jacob, it was them. A mother and son running a long con through love. Using weddings as business deals. Using trust as currency. My heartbreak wasn't collateral, it was the target. I sat with that revelation for hours, shaking, sick. They didn't want love, they wanted leverage. That's when the second twist hit me. One of the earlier victims, a woman named Alyssa, who had sent me a long email after hearing the podcast, mentioned something odd in her story. He said he had to cancel the wedding because his mother was sick. Terminal cancer. He even cried. That was 8 years ago. Funny thing is, I got the same story. Different cancer, different symptoms, same manipulation. So I searched hospital records, treatment bills, fundraisers. Nothing. No diagnosis. No medical history. No donations under their name. The illness? Fiction. And the tears? Practiced. Jacob, or Eli, or Daniel, or whatever he was calling himself this month, didn't just ghost women. He studied them, learned their traumas, mirrored them, made them feel seen so he could make them blind. Now I knew what I was really up against. Not a man, a machine, a system built on silence, shame, and just enough charm to keep people doubting themselves. And I was going to rip the whole thing out at the root. The truth wasn't enough, not this time, because men like Jacob and women like Helen don't run on truth. They run on power. So I didn't just want to reveal who they were. I wanted to strip away what protected them. Their silence, their money, their carefully managed reputation. I started with the vendors, the ones Claire had flagged, the ones who got duped, the ones who lost deposits, got ghosted, or were made to look incompetent when the brides vanished. I sent them everything. Invoices, names, dates, accounts, audio of Jacob bragging about manipulating bridezillas into walking away quietly. One photographer in North Carolina had her career nearly ruined because a bride accused her of not showing up. Turns out that bride was another one of his, and she never even booked the wedding. The invoice was faked. Paid by a shell company. Next, the women. Simone and I built a protected email list, all verified victims. Some hadn't spoken about it in years. Some didn't even know there were others. Some broke down when they found out they weren't alone. We gathered statements, 46 in total, each one naming Jacob, each one describing the same pattern. Charm-fast romance proposal, financial involvement, sudden disappearance. Then we did the part he never saw coming. We went public, together. Simone's article dropped on a Tuesday morning. It wasn't a podcast. It was a full-blown exposé. Title: The Wedding Con: How One Man Turned Love into a Career Scam, and the Women Who Brought Him Down. Front page: verified victims, audio clips, screenshots, LLC filings, even a photo of Helen outside a courthouse from 2015, where she defended her son during a small claims suit involving a cancelled wedding. The story went viral. By noon, his name was trending on Twitter. All of his names. Reddit threads blew up. Wedding forums shared it like wildfire. TikTok stitched it with runaway groom parodies. But I wasn't laughing, not yet. Because I was still holding the final card. See, while Simone was writing the article, I'd been playing the long game with Helen. I contacted one of her former real estate clients, a woman she'd allegedly helped relocate after a fake marriage broke apart. Turns out, Helen used identity fraud to push that sale through. Falsified documents, stolen SSNs. Claire's cousin verified it. I sent the files to the authorities. 2 days later, a quiet arrest warrant. They picked Helen up from her gated home in Hilton Head. White robe, no makeup, no idea the world was watching. It made the local news by nightfall. By morning, she was trending under the hashtag #MotherOfTheCon. Jacob didn't message me, but someone from one of his burner accounts tried. You think this makes you better than us? We gave people something to believe in. You took that away. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because by then, Simone's second article had dropped, with full financial records linking Riverview Strategies LLC to Helen's offshore fund. They weren't just scamming women, they were laundering through love. And in the middle of it all, right when it was crashing down, I mailed one last envelope. To the Monroe family, the ones who paid him to walk away from me. Inside, a copy of the podcast transcript, a copy of the arrest warrant, and a handwritten note. Here's what your money bought. You're welcome. I didn't watch the courtroom feed, didn't need to. I already knew how it ended. Helen, indicted. Jacob, or Eli, or Daniel, still on the run. Interpol issued a flag. Simone's contact said he tried crossing into Belize under a fake passport. He's a ghost now, but not the kind that haunts, the kind that runs. People keep asking if I feel better, if I'm healed, like exposing a monster is the same thing as exorcising him. But healing isn't neat. It's not a Pinterest quote or a clean arc. It's looking at a wedding dress hanging in your closet and not flinching. It's throwing away the guest list, but keeping the vows you wrote, because they were always for you. It's silence, then clarity, then peace. I moved. Not far, just far enough. New city, new apartment. A dog named Scout. He's loud. I like that. I got a job with a consumer rights nonprofit. Turns out I'm really good at spotting liars. One night, months later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a small velvet ring box and a note. I still think about you. The way you looked that day. You were always too smart. I burned it. Didn't cry. Didn't shake. Just lit a match. Held it to the corner and watched it curl into ash. Like the life we almost had. Like the man I almost married. I still get emails from strangers. From women who think they're losing their minds. From women who think it's their fault. I write back. Every time. Not with advice, not with therapy. With one sentence. He's not your story. You are. And sometimes, late at night, I still dream of the aisle. Still see myself in that dress. But now, when I reach the altar, there's no one there. And it doesn't break me. It frees me. He left me at the altar. I walked away with the fire,